All right, everybody, we are live. Buenas tardes. How is everybody doing? It is Thursday of Latino Conservation Week. My name is Christian Lamont. My pronouns are he and him. I am dialing in from Los Angeles, which is also Tongvaland. And I'm so honored to be joined here today by some amazing advocates and storytellers and movement builders and change makers, and more than anything, just wonderful human beings. So I'd like to introduce everybody by name, and if you could introduce yourself briefly or not briefly, and just give us an idea of who you are for somebody who has no idea who you are, or for people who know you well. Alyssa, why don't we start with you?
My name is Alyssa Gonzalez, she, her pronouns. I live on the territory of Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute Land, which is colonized as Boulder, Colorado. I identify as a queer woman of color, community organizer and advocate, a small business owner. I'm mixed race, and so my mom is from Thailand, my dad is Chilean, so it's really special for me to be able to connect with Latino communities, other mixed race communities, and just other people of color in the outdoors and on bikes.
Great. Melissa, well, it's good to see you, Alyssa. Melissa, how about you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Avery, and I am a mom of some pretty fast kids who race bikes. I live in the East Bay in the San Francisco Bay Area in California. I live in a tiny town called Sunol now, and I'm enjoying living here in the forest and having access to great roads and trails. I am currently a board member for the Northern California Nevada Cycling Association, where I help junior and youth race bikes. And I'm so happy to be here, and I'm glad for this discussion.
Welcome, welcome. And now Mario. Sorry, Mario.
I think Mario's having technical difficulty. He can't hear anyone.
Oh, no.
So I guess while we wait for Mario, I wanted to ask, how are you both doing today? Honestly, like, let's start with the basics.
Hello.
Oh, there we go. Now you're gonna have to wait because I was asking them how they're doing.
Totally okay.
Alyssa, how are you doing? How's your day?
I'm doing good. It's sunny and pretty well tempered here in Colorado right now, but I'm in my bike shop that I'm opening soon, and just been getting the space ready, just doing some work around here. So it's been a fun day.
Great.
Yeah.
Melissa, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. We're finishing moving, so unpacking and just exploring new places around where I live. So it's been great. We're recovering from traveling for some bike races, so that's always relaxing to be at home.
All right, good to hear. Now, Mario, if you want to introduce yourself and then tell us how you're doing today.
Hi all, my name is Mario Ordoñez-Calderon and I am the co-founder of a nonprofit called Un Mar de Colores, and we provide free surf therapy and environmental education to underserved youth out of San Diego. And I'm doing really great today. I'm in Tijuana and I'm here attending a Marine Debris Leadership Academy where we're working on binational solutions to address some of the border water crisis pollution that's affecting some of our San Diego beaches here. So doing great. It's sunny and yeah, just happy to be in Mexico.
Just happened to me. That's great. All right. Well, now that we've all gotten to know you, at least on the name level and where you're all at, I wanted to start off with a very, very basic question, but it's also, during Latino Conservation Week, we have daily themes. And a lot of them speak to a lot of people in different ways. And today's theme is about Comunidad y Familia. So I wanted to go through and ask each one of you what Comunidad y Familia means to you. Alyssa, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, like I said earlier, am mixed race, and I come from just my mom, and I have a twin sister and a little sister. So growing up, we didn't have a very large family, and my mom moved here from Thailand when she was 5, and so we grew up in what I thought was very of like an American way. And so getting in as I got older and started getting into different things and finding community in different ways, I think that kind of became my chosen family in a lot of ways. And so now being immersed in the outdoor world, it's been really exciting to learn more about my background, my heritage, other people, sports, all of that through the people around me. A lot of my friends and community I look at as family, and feel very familial towards them. And so it's been an interesting thing where I think I don't necessarily look at family in the traditional way, but it's dynamic and still really supportive. So.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Melissa, what does Comunidad y Familia mean to you?
It's been changing these last year. So I grew up in a very traditional Latino home. I have 3 brothers. I'm the only daughter. My whole family was always around. Like we had the traditional Latino big family, always around. And the last 3 years, my family has been moving away due to the pandemic and just everybody shifting around. So like this past 6 months, my parents finally, they retired and they moved to another state. So like my big family has shrunk down to a very smaller family, and just trying to find my current, like my community and my family's circle has shrunk. So I kind of go from the opposite from Alyssa. I go from the very big one to very small. And but just still trying to, I'm Peruvian American. My family's from Peru, and my kids are mixed race. They're Peruvian and white. So I've put my kids in Spanish immersion school and try to keep the connection with them so they can keep. I know Spanish isn't my indigenous language, but that's what I grew up speaking, and that's how I communicate with the Latino community usually. So that's very important to me for my kids, and getting them connected to just other extended family through cycling too. Like we have a big community in cycling, and just that's their support system, with their actual cousins, and then there's other family and people around through cycling. So that's where I'm at right now.
Thank you for sharing that. Mario, what does Comunidad y Familia mean to you?
Yeah, I take a lot of the lessons that I learned from my Familia, and I use them and create community through them. Like for me, my Familia is big as was my other panelists here. So it feels like it was always a bit of a community, growing up in such a big household. And from the small practices of just like being there for people and cooking for them and welcoming them into your home a certain way. Just kind of carried that forward into adulthood, into the sports that we dive into the circles that we find ourselves, and through those same practices created this community. So they're interchangeable.
So I think one of the beautiful things that my pleasure and my privilege as a conversationalist during this week has been, I throw out a hashtag and I ask folks what it means to them, and we always get different answers. And I think that's just such a cool part of celebrating our identities, our culture, like our individuality, but also as one community. So I really appreciate you all sharing that, and it just shows, that like what one thing means. It's not prescribed. There's no rule. There's no this has to mean that. Like this is up for interpretation. So one of the things I think you can all tell, you're all cyclists, and I can see garages, I can see cycles there. If anyone follows you all on social media, there are photos of cycling adventures, old and coming up. And I wanted to start at the beginning with that. Do you remember the first time that you rode a bike? And what was it that you loved so much about it? And why do you continue to go to your bike as a way to enjoy yourself? Alyssa, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I don't remember when I was younger really doing anything outside, to be honest, or playing outside of just playing in my front yard. And so I know how to ride a bike. I probably did it when I was younger. It didn't have any significant memory to me, but when I was in college, I started just commuting by bike I ran track in college. So to get to track practice on time in between classes, to get to work. And I didn't have a car, so it was the easiest way for me to get around. And that's kind of what I looked at it as this tool for transportation. And then moving to Colorado, I just saw it in such a different light. It was post-college. I stopped running. I was trying to find other things in my life that made me feel, I don't know, like I was growing and finding community and all that. And I kind of found it through the bike accidentally, and found a lot of friends who were into mountain biking, and I tried it and I thought it was crazy. And then I just kept doing it because I was like, wow, this is actually really fun. And that's really what's has kept me going on it, is just the community that I found through it, as well as just like a lot of the personal growth. And it feels really special to be in places that I drive through every single day, and then just to see it through a different light on bike is really unique, and just it's always a fun time.
I love that. And so we've got a program with Latino Outdoors right now. It's called Semillitas Outdoors, Seedlings Outdoors. And one of our big things is that, like, to be a seedling, to plant roots into something you care about and nurture, doesn't always have to be when you're young. We think of seedlings always as like kids, but that is really whatever level, whatever stage you're at in life, you can put down roots. You can build on things that you're passionate and care about, and nurture that lifelong commitment to. So I love the fact that you're like, yeah, college, I got to get somewhere. That's a very real way of coming into this now lifelong passion. Melissa, how about you? Do you remember your first bike ride, or when you first hit that passion, and then what kept you going with it?
So I do remember. I was born and raised in Glendale in LA, and I remember my parents just buying me like my tiny like basket with the bike, and I was like probably like 5, and my mom never learned how to ride a bike, and my dad did, and they would just like launch me. So I just have that memory of like, you know, getting launched on the sidewalk, and I just ride up and down the sidewalk. Then when I was a teenager, I always wanted to like, I always ran. I always wanted to like exercise all the time. And then when I was a teenager, I like taught piano lessons and got enough money to buy myself my own bike. And then I would ride my bike around the neighborhood, and then until it got stolen. and then later in life, probably in my mid-20s, my husband started bike commuting, and because it was faster, because we live in the Bay Area and there's lots of traffic, it was fast for him to bike commute home than to drive. So then he started doing it recreationally, and I was like, hey, I want a bike too. I want to go road bike with you too. So I got a road bike, and that was probably after my first kid, my first son. I got a road bike, and my son is crazy energetic. So we take him on super long hikes, and then he wanted to be just like mommy and daddy, and he got a bike too. And I never found my son's limit of tiredness. So we just kept riding. And now all of my kids are road racers. So just like, it just went on from bike commuting, and then my kids started going to school. So then I don't like driving that much. So then I started biking to school with the kids, and we would bike commute all the time. And we had a house rule of if our destination was less than 5 miles away, we would bike there as a family, and that kind of stuck. So I would say most of my biking for the last 5-10 years have been like bike commuting, just biking around. But I'm also like I do road, mountain, whatever, anything on wheels. I like I like to ride. So it just kind of, I've always liked to be active. Like I would trail run or whatever, and then I was like, hey, biking is like hiking but faster. So I kind of just stuck with that. I still hike, but I like biking.
And I love the fact that you've passed that passion on, and that, like, you know, you're planting the semillitas, and you're continuing that like kind of passion, and easing your family into this so that they can see by example. A lot of folks don't have that. So yeah, your family's really lucky. Mario, do you remember your first bike connection? What kept it going?
So I don't remember the exact moment, but I do have like really core memories of being down in Yucatan, Mexico, Muna, where my family is from, and riding from grandparents' house to grandparents' house on these dirt roads. And my parents trusted me enough to like make it happen. And I was really young. I think I was probably like 7 years old or something like that. So the bike was just like really exciting to get on. And it was this like catalyst for freedom as I like felt old enough to go from one place to the next. And it really just stuck with me, essentially, like that symbol of like, you can get anywhere with this bicycle and you can make anything happen, and there's like limitless possibilities, and you can go as far as your legs will take you, essentially. So
As far as your legs, yeah, right. So I know my next question was going to be focused on cycling, but I'm also listening to, like, you know, you all have a lot going on and a lot of passions, not just limited to cycling. I'm hearing advocacy, Mariana. I know nonprofit. Melissa, you're a board member and a parent. I think, you know, I'd like to know, are there any projects that you all are working on? Some I got stuck.
you're unstuck now, Christian.
Thank good. I can only imagine what face I was making. Great. That's fun. So I was going to ask, like, are there any projects that you all are working on? Like, they don't have to be work, they can be passions. You know, like, I follow all of you, as many of us do on Instagram. Like, you all have so many stories to share. But I wanted to kind of like open it up and like, let's talk about what you want to talk about. What is the same passion that you all have in terms of cycling? Like, what else is bringing you that passion in life? Or is it a continuation of your cycling? Alyssa, do you want to start?
Yeah. So I started actively cycling about 2 years ago. I got my first mountain bike in May of 2021. And during the pandemic, I was really passionate just about speaking up about my experience as a woman of color living in Colorado and growing up in predominantly white spaces, and had the privilege of having a lot of people listen to what I was saying. And so it really kickstarted this passion for advocacy and just speaking up about uh, the inequities that a lot of people face, just through my lens and experience. And at the same time too, I got into cycling. And so it kind of turned into this love for both. And I felt a lot of the barriers that a lot of people do getting into sports, where it was really expensive. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where to go or who to do it with. And found a really amazing community of all different types of people here in Colorado that really showed me that I can be a cyclist despite what I thought I was supposed to be or how I was supposed to act and dress. And that was just a really powerful thing for me. And through other sports too, was the first time in my life that I had been around other people of color. And I think there was one event, it was me and 5 other women of color. And that was the first time that I was like, oh, wow, like this is the actual first time that I've been just around people that look like me and have similar experiences. And it was really moving. And I wanted a lot of other people to be able to experience that. So over the last few years, I've just been working a lot on community organizing here and leading rides, and decided to open a bike shop in Denver, Colorado. And so that's what I'm currently doing now. There are no women of color owned shops in the state. It'll be one of 3. There's 2 Black owned shops here. And so it's going to be doing something different and new, but also just really working to be a community focused space, to just hopefully have anyone who walked through the doors here find a bike or some type of acceptance in the community, or see themselves reflected in a way that I think a lot of people with marginalized identities don't see. So the way that the community kind of brought me in and accepted me, I really want to just give that back out to them too. And that's kind of a passion project, but also my job now, because I quit my other job and then I'm just doing it full time. So it's exciting. And I'm just excited to see a different cycling world in the future than the one that a lot of us are in now. Because I think there's a lot of growth happening, but there's just so much room for more.
I appreciate that. And, you know, speaking of Instagram and the ability to reach and communicate and advocate, I saw you you posted a very interesting series of stories where you like kind of dug into the weeds about loans, and then you were also like advocating for trans athletes and UCI and all those decisions that have been happening. Anything you want to talk about that? Any light that you want to shed, since you've got potentially a different audience here?
Yeah. I know opening a business is hard, but I didn't think it was going to be as tough as it has been in some ways. And I'm starting to feel a lot of the barriers that I think someone with marginalized identities feels, where the things that they want to see in order to get a loan or a business loan is that you own your own house, or you own a car and you have equity to be able to put against a loan, or that you have 50 to 100K in the bank account already to be able to put up against that. Or you have to be working full time and still be able to also own a business and open all of that. And so there's all these barriers that are coming up that me I'm 29, I don't have $100,000 in my bank account, and I don't own a house. It's almost becoming impossible for me to get a loan to start a business, which feels tough. And so I'm trying to be creative and figure out other ways to do it. And then on that note too, I just think in terms of the rulings that the UCI and Belgian Waffle Ride and the British cycling industry is kind of coming out to banning trans women and trans athletes from competing, it's just more barriers coming up in different ways that I'm not a trans woman, but what's to say next, that they're going to ban mixed race people from racing, or it just all trickles out into the other categories of issues that marginalized people face, that at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We just want to be on a bike, have fun, race if we want to, go slow if we want to. And there are unnecessary barriers being put up because of fear or the unknown or ignorance. And so I hope that more people can have conversations and shed light on things that are seemingly taboo to talk about, or uncomfortable situations or conversations. And hopefully more change comes through that.
Well, I appreciate you using your platform to advocate for Comunidad y Familia, and also to like shed light on like, well, one part is we all cheer you on because you're opening up a shop, which everybody in Boulder needs to go check out when it opens. The other part is like being honest, and this is not an easy process, and maybe somebody listening to your experiences can help them navigate a little bit easier when it's their turn, and hopefully not the first, but the 31st or the 51st or 101st. So I appreciate that a lot, Alyssa.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Melissa, is there something that brings you the same kind of passion that you talk about, you know, in terms of cycling, something that you're working on, something that brings you a joy, and maybe cycling or maybe outside of cycling?
I have a lot of things, but currently, I guess I am, like I said, I'm a board member on it's called the NCNCA, which is the racing community here in Northern California. It's like the local area for USA Cycling, where if somebody says, hey, I got a bike, I'm riding for fun, and then they're like, hey, I think I want to race my bike, you would come to this organization and you could find clubs and stuff like that. Anyways, my position on the board is the junior representative. And what I'm really excited is that the numbers are slowly growing. Road racing took a big hit after the whole Lance Armstrong and all of that all like affected cycling quite a bit. So a lot of the road racing went down, and it's my kids wanted to race, and I was like, hey, like I want to make this better for my kids. So I started I've been working on with the clubs and slowly growing not just the numbers, but the people of color in the junior fields is a different demographic than what you would think that regular road racing is. So there's a lot of people of color in the junior fields, which makes me really happy, because my kids can see people that are like them. Other kids can see other, not just, Latinos, but just other different races within their community. And it's great. And like I was telling you earlier, like my kids, I put them in immersion school, and like recently a family came from Colombia and they showed up at the velodrome in San Jose, and my kids could use their Spanish to talk with a new girl who came who didn't speak a word of English, so it's great that, I put them in school for my purposes, but they can use it in like the sport they love. I can use it in the sport that I love too. So I'm really glad that the community rides we've been doing through the racing community is starting to trickle out and just get a different variety of people to come into racing. I would say another project I was happy, and I can't work on it anymore because I don't live in the city of Fremont, is that we built in the city of Fremont the longest raised path in America. Protected. It's a raised bike route. It's one of the longest ones. It's keeping on. It's getting longer, but I can't work on it anymore because I don't live there anymore. But it's been great to see that. And when people to Fremont, they're like, hey, this is almost like riding in I'm blanking out on the country in Europe where everyone bikes. I can't think of it right now. Amsterdam, yes, I can read your lips. And it's great because there's so many protected bike lanes, and like every time I go in there now, I just see more and more people riding bikes, and not like all in spandex. They're just riding bikes to get from one point to another, which is what I actually truly love, is just like getting people feeling safe to ride on the roads, to reduce carbon emissions, especially when gas went up. People were like, this is crazy, like, I'm gonna ride a bike. I'm like, yes, you are. So like I was really glad to see that growth in the city that I lived for quite a bit of a long time. And I guess just one of my personal goals is I am a USA Cycling official, because there is a lack of officials in just bike racing in general. Nevertheless, people of color in officials. So I'm trying to work my way up in through the official ranks, so I could hopefully someday be an official through like the Olympics. Like that's one of my personal goals, is like I want to move up through because you have to go through all of these types of bike racing and officiate all this stuff. So I'm never gonna be a fast bike rider, but I want to be around it, and it'd be nice to be, I can try to go through, UCI events and Olympics and stuff like that, if I can work my way up through the ranks. Right now I'm at the very bottom, but I'm doing it, and it's fun. It's fun to officiate bike races. It's fun to be there as a parent. It's fun to learn all the ins and outs of infrastructure for cities and stuff like that, and how that all works together to just get people riding bikes, whether it's for transportation or they want to, race bikes. I just like to get people on bikes in general. And it's a close part of my heart if, they're part of my Latino community. So that's what I truly care about.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Mario, what brings you this level of passion, the passion that we're hearing here? What's your thing?
Yes, sir. Well, I've been diving deep into the surf world and the ocean world, specifically most recently with Un Mar de Colores. And we have our second cohort of 15 students, and we're providing them free surf therapy, environmental education, and mentorship. And I could just get lost in all the weeds of developing the curriculum and the programming for the organization, and just sitting back and envisioning this binational from Tijuana and Southern San Diego cohort of ocean shredders and conservationists working together to be collected by our great big connector, which is the ocean. But I wouldn't have been able to get to this position to connect more youth to this natural space if it weren't for the bike ride that I did through Mexico back in 2018 or something like that with my best friends. And that really grounded me and essentially made me the man that I am today, and allowed me to be in a centered place to be able to give back. And in hearing these conversations of two really inspiring stories, I've really wanted to get back on the bike, because I actually haven't gone on a bike adventure in a really long time, but get back on the bike and kind of share those little tips of a knowledge that I gained along the bike packing adventure. So I'm looking forward to connecting with some bike organizations out here in San Diego, like Bikes del Pueblo, which is a co-op. And what they do is they essentially give, they do quite a lot, but what really stood out to me is just essentially they're just trying to get more BIPOC people on bikes, and they'll do like free tune-ups and things like that, and little like bike gathering days, and even give bikes away. So it's really cool, and I'd love to like connect with them. This is me doing a big shout out, like I want to work with you, but hopefully just connect with organizations down here that are doing the work and helping them through some of the skills that I've gained with my bike experience.
I love it. Just multifaceted, passionate human beings, all brought under the excuse of Latino Conservation Week. Because honestly, like, these conversations could go on like any day of the week, but this is also a special week. It's the 10-year anniversary of Latino Conservation Week and the 10-year anniversary of Latino Outdoors this year. And so we've been doing a lot of looking back, like where did we come from 10 years ago? When Melissa and Jose were making sure that folks were getting out into the outdoors and not only doing it, but then telling other people about it and then encouraging them to tell their stories. And then we've talked a bit about the present, what you all are working on right now. So I wanted to talk real quickly about the future, because I'm a hopeful individual. And I've said this a few times, I find myself, because there is plenty wrong. We all inherited and grew up in a world that was not always welcoming for us. Violent erasure of our stories, exclusion, intimidation, and worse. But there are people like you doing amazing work in your communities. And so you've got to have hope. There are communities like Latino Outdoors and intersectional environmentalists and green Latinos and Hispanic Access, so many of them, disabled hikers, unlikely hikers, Black girls trekking, just keep on naming, that didn't used to exist 10 years ago. And now here we all are together. So we're looking at the next 10 years. So I wanted to ask you all, what is something that gives you hope, that you think about when we talk about the next 10 years? What is something that you're like, I feel like that's going in the right direction. I feel like if we keep at it, if we keep working together, I've got hope for this. Who would like to go first with this?
I can go, just sticking with the pattern.
Sure.
I'm still so new to the outdoors and being in this world that I, in some ways, am not jaded. I'm just like, we can do anything we want and put our minds to it. And I think that's been really exciting. And I see a lot of that attitude in younger generations coming forward. And something that I realized even over the last few years is representation is extremely important. Seeing yourself reflected in the spaces that you want to be in is integral to recognizing that you can be there too. But I think even more than that, it's the invitation and acknowledgement, and every single person here being able to even just talk to their communities and say like, hey, there's a space for you and we want you to come here, even if you've never done it before, you don't know if you like it or not. And that invitation is just, with all of these groups, continuously growing. And so the more that people just want to do things differently and are making the spaces for themselves and taking that step to say, hey, I'm not going to just wait to see another group pop up that hopefully I'll be able to be a part of. They're just going out there and making that and continuously inviting more people into it. It's just creating this really cool, is almost removing the barrier that a lot of people are feeling, where they see themselves there without even having to look too far. You can search Latinos outside doing things and then probably have 50 groups pop up, where when I was growing up, I just really didn't see anyone. And I grew up in Florida and I just didn't see anyone doing things with their time that was really just celebrating themselves and taking time for themselves outside of just work and family. And so I think it's exciting that the generations coming up are seeing so many people and seeing themselves hopefully reflected in a bigger way, that they feel like they have the permission and the empowerment to go out and just do that on their own and not have to worry about if they can fit in or not.
I appreciate that. How about you, Melissa? What brings you hope right now?
One of the things I guess I've always kind of connected with Jose Gonzalez was that like we've kind of always been outdoors. Just growing up, like my family, we lived in LA, but we would always be outdoors, and just the story of what people would consider outdoors. So like I'm a different perspective than Alyssa. Is just like I've always been outdoors, and just finding the different activities that that would encapsulate that, whether it was hiking, camping, having a carne asada in the park, or now biking, rock climbing, whatever. We've always been there, but we didn't have the platform to show it. And that, what gives me hope is like there is all of these different organizations now that can share these stories that have been always been around. So it's nice. It's nice to see that. It's nice to incorporate cycling in that. I mean, I like to sit on boards. So like before I was on here, I was on, for the cycling, I was on the American Hiking Society, and like part of Latino Outdoors and a few others. And it's just like, I like to be in areas where I would say, people of color are not. So I could bring more people in and then step away for those people to take over, like all of you. That's kind of what I like to do. And I think biking, just in general, there are people of color, but there could be more. And it just, showcasing them and doing all of that is something I kind of see as like the last frontiers of cycling and getting diversity into cycling. So that kind of gives me hope, and that like maybe those who didn't grow up with those looking like them in the cycling community, what gives me hope is like my kids are, and other kids that are currently, I would say, like in my racing community, they're seeing others like them, and that like that's just normal. It's normal for them. It's not. And that wasn't normal for me. That wasn't normal for others who are, I'm an 80s kid. I'm in my 40s. You guys are probably all super young. But Christian's an 80s kid, maybe like me. But just like that's normal for my kids now to see, BIPOC people in all of the racing community that they're in. So that gives me hope. That gives me hope that I can see lots of other families. My kids always joke at me because anytime they see a family biking, they're like, "Are you gonna cry, Mom?" I'm like, "Yes, I am," because like that wasn't normal 5 years ago. Like that wasn't normal. And now it's not just us. There's other people out there. There's other families giving up their cars to just go to the store or whatever. So that kind of gives me hope. And I'm glad that this organization has sprouted others and motivated others in different communities to do stuff like that. So that's what makes me happy to see in the future for these organizations.
Well, not in a cheesy way, but thank you for your service, because I know how much work and heavy lifting you put down so that we could be where we are right now. Mario, what brings you some hope?
Yeah, well, definitely being a part of conversations like this bring me hope amongst y'all and amongst the people that tuned in. Thank y'all for being a part of it. But I think what brings me hope is when I think about what it's not only access and representation, it's what those things bring to each individual when they feel it and when they see it and when they experience it. And I think it's a reconnecting to nature. I think like the bike and the running and the hiking and the surfing are all just connections to source, whether it be God, creator, whatever you feel like is your bigger power. But we're kind of dropping into that when we do these activities. And I think that's what's going to help create a sustainable relationship with Mother Earth here, is when that we value these outdoor spaces as much as we value the activity that we're doing in order to recreate in these spaces. And I think that that's what is beautiful about recreation in the outdoors, is that creates that connection. So when more people are getting out there and getting after it and getting on the bike and building community, then they're more likely to protect where they play. And that's what really brings me hope, is that looking into it, like you said, like you asked, like 10 years from now, I'm thinking 100 years from now, like it's really going to be a beautiful world if we keep getting more people out there and enjoying nature.
I love that. And how can we not be hopeful? Again, with individuals and organizations and board members and shop owners and advocates like yourselves. I wanted to ask one last question, and in tying it back to the Comunidad y Familia, who is somebody that you want to shout out to, somebody that you want to recognize, somebody within your comunidad or your familia, whether you know them or not, that has helped you on your journey to where you are, or somebody that you met recently? Again, speaking about when are these semillas planted? Who's somebody in your comunidad or familia that has made a difference to you? One person. I know that's what makes it difficult, the one person part. That you would like to shout out, that you'd like to recognize, that you'd like to be like, I care. We'll start with Alyssa again.
I honestly want to say Jose Gonzalez of Latino Outdoors. Since I've been advocating in this space, he was one of the first people to reach out to me and support me just verbally and through Instagram, and has brought me into so many special events and conversations. And as a mixed race person growing up, it's always been really hard for me to feel like I have community in the Latina space and the Asian space. And so being seen by him and feeling like he sees me enough as Latina to be able to come into these spaces feels really honorable and special. And so without the work that people like him are doing to recognize the full spectrum of what Latino Outdoors looks like and how we all recreate together, this type of stuff wouldn't be able to happen. So he's a great person and has been just a super supportive human along the way.
He's an all right guy. Jose is wonderful. He's amazing. And he's pretty funny. I don't know if you all see his memes. Yeah, I look forward to those every Thursday. Melissa, how about you? Who's somebody that you want to shout out and recognize as Comunidad y Familia?
Oh, my dad. My dad, just because he installed, both of my parents installed the love of the outdoors. When he was a gardener, and then he moved up and he became a mechanical engineer, but he would always take time from his work to take us to Sequoia National Park. My memories of my childhood have always been in the outdoors. I lived in LA, but my memory is of the mountains and being there with my family, and just my dad encouraging me to always step out of my comfort zone in my schools, my careers, and all of our, bike racing and backpacking and all this stuff. He's always been a supporter of whatever we've done, and just oh, that's just, Melissa and her crazy adventures with her family. And, it's always been a supportive, support from my dad and my mom, but the smell of grass reminds me of my dad. The pine trees, the sound of the wind just rustling, just reminds me of our childhood. And just thanking my dad for taking time out of, I know we're Latino and people just work, but my dad took time out of his life to instill the love of the outdoors with us, with my family. So that's shout out to my dad.
Shout out to the papas. Mario, who's somebody that you want to shout out?
Yeah, as I'm sitting here with Latino Outdoors Conservation Week, I feel like there's no other person I can shout out than my abuelo, Gilberto Calderon, who passed away during COVID, but he was a rambunctious bike mechanic who always his bike mechanic shop was in the patio of the house, and it resembled more of a barber shop than a bike mechanic shop, because people would just come hang out and read newspapers, and he would take way longer than probably any other bike shop to fix the flat or fix the thing, because he'd be chatting the whole time. But he definitely helped essentially guide me in being as enthusiastic as I am about bicycles. and I wouldn't be here if it weren't for him.
I think these tributes and these memories is a great way to close off. I want to thank you all so much for showing up and sharing this space with Latino Outdoors and Latino Conservation Week. We've gone ahead and dropped in some links that will take folks in our audience and our community to different places that are important to you all. The question was, how can we support you? And this is what can we share? And this is what you told us would help. So on behalf of all of us throughout the entire week, thank you so much. You all are doing incredible work. You all have built foundations and are working upon those foundations. And you all are part of creating a beautiful bike path that's going to lead us into a bright and safe and welcoming and inclusive future. So thank you all for playing your part in that and playing your important roles. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you so much, Alyssa. Thank you so much, Mario. Have a wonderful day, and thank you all for joining us for the 10-year anniversary of Latino Conservation Week and Latino Outdoors. Thank you all.
Thank you. Take care.
Ba-da